Hi, I'm Spencer Doman, and I'm here with Harsha Chalani. And I've asked Harsha to join me today to talk a little bit about her experience with her son, Virat, who is a wonderful little boy who's been diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And so Harsha has agreed to join me today to talk about her experience with Virat and specifically with doing the Doman Method program. Thanks a lot, Harsha, for joining me.
No problem. Hi, Spencer.
So, Harsha, I was hoping that we could start off by you maybe taking us back in time a little bit and telling us about when Virat was diagnosed with cerebral palsy and maybe about the emotions that you felt when you were given that diagnosis.
Sure. Okay, Virat was actually a post-term baby. He was born like 4 days after the due date. And what has happened is, he ate up his own stool, because of which, the oxygen levels didn't reach to the brain, and his survival was very less. So, he was shifted to the nearby NICU where he was for 55 days. And over there, actually, what has happened is the doctors had decided to do the MRI on the fourth day when he was 4 days old. And in the MRI, it came out that, he is diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and they said it's like called the partial agenesis of corpus callosum. So, I mean, I didn't know that time. The doctor said that these are just like cells, something which is not developed, and you'll just need like a neurodevelopment program and everything. So we're like, okay, but we didn't know what it was until we got a physiotherapy involved, and she told us about that this is Virat's diagnosis. So that's how we learned about it. So
And
when he was born.
and did any like doctors give you any predictions about his development or any like prognosis of how he was going to be in the future?
No, nothing, not at that time. No.
And so, what did you start doing early on? Since you got the diagnosis so quickly, did you start any therapies or treatments after he was born?
Yes, initially, we were told that he first needed a physiotherapy, wherein he was made to hold his head. He didn't have any neck holding. He didn't know how to sit upright. So then, for I can say for about 2.5 years, we were just making an attempt to make him have his neck holding, to make him sit, and to get up on his own and sit. Then maybe to learn how to chew, to bite, all those things. The physiotherapist was looking after. So which we achieved by then when he was about 3 years. Then after that, there was no signs of improvement. And yeah, that's what it is.
And I'm sure that when you heard he had cerebral palsy, you probably did your own research, and tried to find answers for him. Did you find that there was a lot of hope out there for kids with that diagnosis?
Yes, there was.
Good. And so, okay. Um, so at a certain point, he was 3 years old when you found out about the Doman method?
Um, I got to know when he was 2.5, and not 2.5, sorry, 3 years. And my cousin, my uncle's daughter, she over here in Mumbai attended a seminar, which these events keep happening here in Mumbai. So she had gone there and she met this gentleman, Mr. Viraj Mohan, and he he was very very nice as always. So he met my cousin, and they discussed about Virat's case, and they said that this is the answer, that he needs the Domain program, so why don't you try the course and everything. So that's when we began, and in 2015 we took up the first course in Philadelphia, and we got him evaluated, and from then there was no stoppage at all.
And what drew you to the Doman method, and what did you notice early on made it different from maybe some of the other approaches that you had tried before it?
Well, the very first thing that attracted me, there were many things. The physical program, like the incline floor, then the nutrition, which was very important, which no one gave prime importance at all over here in Mumbai. That was that which I really liked about the domain program initially, and that's what helped actually
Mhm. So
initially.
when you started the program, he couldn't crawl by himself
He
yet.
couldn't crawl.
Mhm.
No.
And so, could you just kind of take us through his mobility a little bit? Because I think for parents with kids with cerebral palsy, their biggest concern tends to be motor development. So, could you just explain how long did it take Virat to start crawling on his belly and then creeping on his hands and knees? How long did
Yeah,
that process take?
sure. Okay, as I told you in 2015, I took up the course in Philadelphia. I had come there and got Virat evaluated. And when I came, this was in October, if I clearly remember, October 2015. I came back to Mumbai in November. I started getting my incline floor done, which was like in the second month you have to start your physical program. So I started doing that. You won't believe me, Spencer, within 3 months or even 2 months, Virat was crawling down the incline floor. He also moved a few steps, away from the incline floor. So that was very motivating initially. And this took about 2 to 3 months, not more than that. And then we had put him on the anti-roll device. Then I removed it off and he used to sleep the whole night because the floor is the best friend. So he was made to sleep on the floor all night. Even I used to sleep with him on the floor the whole night, which was a very, very difficult thing to do. But we did it for him. And after that, I took up the lectures in Malaysia, the lecture 2, wherein he started, I was told to make him come in the quad position for the creeping. So the quad position took him, I can say, 2 to 3 months to learn it with the anti-sit pack. And from there, he is creeping like, I even crossed more than 1 kilometer that time. So there was no stoppage, nothing.
And so Virat now is learning to stand. Is that right?
Yes.
Mhm. And
Yes.
for many kids with the kind of motor issues that he has, a lot of parents, and I think this makes a lot of sense, are very focused on getting their kid walking immediately. And
Right.
obviously, that's very, very difficult. And
Right.
for many kids with the diagnosis of cerebral palsy, they never learn to walk. Do you feel now that Virat hopefully is getting close to walking, he's learning to stand and walk? Do you feel that crawling and creeping were necessary steps to get him there?
Yes, it is. Because, you need to build up the ladder. You cannot just go on the third floor and start doing things. So you have to start with the basics, to get his trunk correct. You have to, get all his muscles activated. So I felt creeping and crawling was important for him. And it's for everybody. I know very few people who have directly started walking or whatever without, just bypassing the creeping or the crawling levels. I
Mm.
know very few kids who have done that. It's very important. So it was a good thing that the domain people have done, and they got him crawling first, then they got him creeping, and now he's learning to walk.
And so, what would you say is his most recent achievement in terms of his mobility? Is it
Yeah.
learning to stand, or what's the biggest thing that's happened recently?
Spencer, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Harsha. So my question was, what do you feel was his biggest success recently with his mobility? Is it learning to stand? What's the latest update with where he is?
The latest update is Virat is walking down the ladder. He is also now learning to get up. Today itself, he started to get up on his own,
Hmm.
and he was standing, which was like remarkable. I have never seen this, and I'm doing it since past 1 year. I'm making him get up and stand, which was not happening until now. But today he did it for the first time
And
independently
that's amazing. So he stood up today holding on to furniture or by himself?
onto the furniture.
Onto furniture. Well, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Congratulations. That's a big.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And and what about other areas of development? So you've been working on his mobility. Have you been also working on his cognitive development and other areas?
Right. um, reading, the reading program, the intellectual program is a very important part of the domain program, which I feel like is very important for all children because they can see the words, they can understand. And even believe me, when I started showing him words, he could recognize by pointing out as to what am I showing him. He does like bits of intelligence. He's communicating to me by just by single words onto the facilitated communication. So the intelligence is very important because that's how he's going to communicate to me. Otherwise, how do we do that? So the intellectual is very important. Other than that, the nutrition level, the nutrition program. Because until the child is not healthy, he does not have all the energy, nothing, how can I expect him to do a very intense physical program? So he has to be hale and hearty to do it. So for a good health, you need to have good food. And the nutrition program plays a very important role over here as well. So he very barely has fallen ill. Only he just fell ill last month for about 10 to 15 days. Otherwise, he had never fallen ill, which is a very plus point. And this is all started after I started the domain program.
Well, that's
So,
fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I've even met physicians, for example, in Mumbai and in other cities in India, and they'll tell me that they expect a child, even a well child, to get ill once a month on average. So I think that the fact he's been so
right.
healthy is a huge, huge thing for him.
And something, Virat, initially when I came to the US in 2015, he was always constipated. I had to rush him to the hospital, to the doctors every week to, to give him some relief because he was constipated. But trust me, till now, not a single day I had to visit a doctor. Not a single day. And it's been 3 years now. So he's not constipated one day, which is a
Wow.
very good thing for him at least.
Yeah, that's amazing. Harsha, how has your view of Virat's future changed? I mean, you've been doing this program now for basically 3 years. Has the way you look at him changed over that time?
He has, and I'm expecting him to, at least in the near future, I want him to walk and I want him to talk. That's the way how all we human beings are doing. But it's going to be a challenge, but I know it's going to happen with the help of the staff of the Domain International. And that's what I want for the near future. Him now walking and later to, for his survival. I mean, that's too late. I mean, just to work or whatever. But the basic is he has to walk now. So that's my near future, what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
That's what I want.
yeah, that's what we want to. uh, any advice that you have for other parents out there?
Yes. Actually, in case if you if you do have a child with cerebral palsy or with anyone else, any other brain injury, I feel the domain program must be tried once. This is a decision you will never regret. I always felt like maybe am I doing something wrong, but after I started a program, I was super happy. I cannot explain to you that what good I have done for Virat. He needed this, and this is the best what I have done for him. And I'm sure, and I want that most of the parents, they should try the Dome International because it's definitely going to change their lives for good. I'm sure of that.
Well, I think that's a great point, Harsha. You know, my grandfather Glenn always used to say to us and to parents that motivation really comes from success. So yeah, you have
Right.
to try something, and then when you have success in it, you'll be motivated to keep going.
Of
You know
course. You
what,
need progress.
Harsha? I often speak with parents who are just learning about the Doman method for the first time, and often they say, I've heard that the Doman method is a lot of work. And of course, I say to
It's a
them,
lot of hard work.
it's a lot of hard work. Yeah. And of course, I say to them, it
Right.
is hard work. But I also say, look, a lot of the best things in life come from hard work. And that if anyone tells you that your child with special needs can be cured with something quick and easy, you shouldn't trust that person anyway. Um, I'm
Mhm.
asking you for your thoughts about that hard work. You've put in a lot of time, you've put in a lot of effort. Do you feel it's been worth it?
Every penny I have spent in this program is worth it. Every time that I have put in, all the energy that I have put in, it's worth it, because now I am happy. I really feel that this all is happening because the hard work that I have put in. I have actually, he does a program 8 hours more than 8 hours. So I put in a lot, and the results are there in front of you. He's walking now. I mean, this is all because of the hard work that I have put in. Otherwise, it would never be possible. So it's worth it, definitely.
Anything else that you want to say, Harsha? I mean, I've been asking you questions, but anything else that comes to mind? Any thoughts for families?
What are your thoughts about cerebral palsy and their future? I mean, what would it be? I mean,
Yeah. Well, certainly, every child with cerebral palsy is different and has their own unique
right.
issues. But I think the most important thing for parents to understand is that while the diagnosis of cerebral palsy might seem very frightening to parents, uh, all the symptoms that the child has and exhibits is because of an issue in the brain. It's a neurodevelopmental condition. And the good news is that the human brain can change. It can develop. And often, parents with children with this condition are given no hope early on in life. Where they look for resources, they look for help, and they can't find anything that's producing results. And the truth is that the brain can change. It's a phenomena called neuroplasticity. And if the right kinds of activities, the right kinds of treatments are done with the child can develop, the child can get better, and the brain itself can change. And when the brain changes, those symptoms, whether it's problems with mobility, whether it's problem using hands, whether it's speech or cognitive issues, those symptoms can start to decrease and in some cases even disappear. So I think that's what I would say to parents first and foremost. There is hope, and I think the best approach, whether it's the Doman method or another approach that a parent finds, it needs to be an integrative approach. If you look out there for resources for kids with these problems, it's usually a therapist doing physical therapy or a therapist doing speech or occupational therapy. And they're all kind of working in bubbles, in a sense, in their own tiny areas. And in my experience, the only way to fix these problems is an integrative approach where you're going at the problem from different angles. And that's certainly what you've been doing with Murat.
Yes. It has to be integrated, well integrated. And I would
Well,
just like to add something, as it's said, like, cerebral palsy cannot be a life sentence. There will be scope of improvements. You may see good days, bad days, but one day a good day will come, I'm sure. It's definitely not a life sentence, as other people really think it to be.
yeah, and
But
I
it's not.
I read a beautiful blog post about you and Virat in the Momspresso blog, which talked about your experience with him. And I know from personal experience because I've spoken to parents who have who read that blog, and it inspired a lot of parents. So I wanted to thank you for that, and I wanted to thank you also.
No problem.
I wanted to thank you for joining me and sharing your experience.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right, Harsha. Well, we wish you the very best of luck with Virat. Of course, as you know, we're always here if
Thank you so
you need
much.
anything.
Yes.